Welcome back, Maria. And Aruneesh, welcome. Thank you
Hello.
for being here. Aruneesh, would you introduce yourself for us? And then after Maria, you?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, I guess, everyone. So my name is Aruneesh. I manage the AppSec cloud security where I work. And independent of that one, I also work as a fractional CISO with focus on cloud assessment, open source program office secrets, IAM, with additional focus on data security and privacy. And I'm so glad to be here. And Tanya, thank you for moderating this particular session. It's phenomenal.
My pleasure. Thank you for being a part of the Purple Book community. Maria.
Hi, my name is Maria Schwenger. Beside a long career in IT, for the last couple of years, I've known that I've been building DevSecOps programs and data protection programs from scratch. So I have a lot of good experience, and related, my passion is application security, data protection, this holistic picture of what is required for our company to have an end-to-end successful release and happy customers.
Ooh, I like that. I feel like that could be like your personal slogan. That's awesome. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of questions, and all of them are about metrics around application security. And so, Aruneesh, I was hoping I could ask you first, and then go back and forth between you and Maria with the questions, if that's okay. So my first question is, what types of AppSec metrics should we gather, Aruneesh? And like, why do we want those ones?
Yeah, that's a very important point, right? I mean, like I was hearing like some of the other panelists in this session, and I like where people are kind of compartmentalizing those metrics in whether it's operation or ROI. From my perspective, I think like some of the metrics which are important is how effective are my security programs, right? I mean, like what is my investment, and am I getting the ROI based on those things, right? And some of the metrics which kind of actually comes close to my heart is like the adoption itself. How well are your tools adopted across your applications, across your business critical applications, your MTTR, MTDD, burn rate? How well are you like actually bringing your trend lines downwards, right? And also, I mean, like having a focus at the same time on the false positive rates based on the security school tools that you have, right? And another metric which is going to be important, which is not tool specific, but more on the training, right? How effective are your security training programs? Are you realizing the value? Let's say you're spending like $100,000 per year or maybe even more, right? Do you see that particular value? Does it result in the trends going down?
Oh, that's so good. I agree. I want the trends going down. Maria?
Oh, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
You want to add?
Well, if it's a code coverage, I don't want my trends to go down. I want my code coverage to go up. I'm sorry. But, you know, we have some metrics that we can't say, are they going to go up or down? Like, for example, the attack surface, right? I mean, the attack surface, it's a measure that, you know, it's basically showing up sizing the complexity of our applications, and it depends on them. You know, endpoints, APIs, integrations. I mean, all of this is going up, but it's kind of not up to us to go up or down. We just need to think in terms of attack surface in this case, and that's essential to, you know, identify potential weaknesses and solve them, right? Be prepared. But yeah, the code coverage is definitely a metric that we want to go up as much as possible, because it gives us an idea of how well we are testing, what we are covering, what portion of our code base is covered, and whether there are any gaps, what the test suites we need to up if we can. And, you know, we should be gathering this type of metrics to identify the areas in the application code that we need to test more significantly, again, based on the business need. Another metric that I like, it's a vulnerability density. And I don't know how, usually it's calculated by 100 lines of code, or, depending, we should probably have something more meaningful as calculation. But we need to know how many vulnerabilities do exist in our code base today and how severe they are. And that should help us to prioritize which vulnerabilities to address first. And the vulnerability density definitely needs to go down. Time to fix needs to go down. And I agree with Arunesh that the false positives, so false negatives, but especially false positives, are on my blacklist. So we want those metrics to go down, because this is the real waste of time for our team. And, we need to work with vendors to make sure that their tools will help us to diminish this number.
Absolutely, Maria,
Also,
I agree.
Let's talk about the metrics that matter, right? But there are metrics that, and a lot of people are actually asking, are there any metrics that I shouldn't be worried about? I shouldn't count on them. And the answer probably is yes. You can skip some of those, but that will depend organization per organization, even team by team, just a specific offering that might be. Kind of some of them we can.
Nice. Aruneesh, how do we measure a return on investment on our AppSec program? Like, what types of metrics or data would we want to try to show upper management? Like, hey, like, you are definitely getting a return on all of this money you're spending.
I think the two that actually stands out, one aspect is your investment in people. Like if you're putting taking people through the journey of like AppSec training itself, whether it's your security program, security champion program, or you're actually giving a platform access to different developers in your organization. First of all, are we doing well in terms of adoption? How many people are training? What is the rigor on that, and reporting on that one? And in addition, you also have to see, does it result on my number of net new issues? There is another thing that I forgot to mention is, when you talk about metrics, you also need to focus on the net new issues that are coming up, right? Because we have to accept that the security has been more of an afterthought for last 20 years itself, right? So you already had like a backlog of issues, and that would not go back to zero suddenly, right? But you also need to actually have a focus on the net new issue that are coming up. Any application that you're pushing to the cloud or containers, right? You should aim for like a net zero to whatever extent possible, right? And another aspect is you have to find the effectiveness for your investment in tooling, all the scanning solutions, and I think like somebody else was talking about metrics needs. When we talk of investment, you have to ask your tool effective. Especially with budgets being so constrained these days, you also have to see, can I do with some open source solutions instead of using like the most expensive solution on the street?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. Maria, how can we tell if we're doing a good job? Like, I feel like this is the hardest question.
I will tell you and it depends how you measure the good job. Again, ROI is not necessarily the best measure, but think about the DevSecOps. The whole notion behind DevSecOps is a cultural change. So if we have a way to measure the collaboration between the dev, the sec, and the ops, so how many times the developers didn't feel that security is the stick in the wheel? How many times we have this enhanced collaboration across the three groups, which allow the release not to be delayed, or allows a release to release with no vulnerabilities found as well, or allows this release maybe takes 30 days to fix certain amount of vulnerabilities and half of the time into the next release. So these are kind of a soft measures, more cultural related, which I think is very important to keep in mind. It's not just plain money.
Nice. Okay, so I have only 4 minutes left, so I'm going to see if I can ask both of you each one more question. And so, Aruneesh, I was wondering, so we talked about things we want to gather, we talked about things we don't want to gather, we talked about which things should go up or go down. Aruneesh, what are some goals we could set around trying to gather metrics? Like, what things would you like to try to gather, or what kind of goal could we have around that?
So a couple of goals that, again, like I'm going to keep it short, but some of the effective goals, again, like all the goals should be geared towards measuring your ROI and giving back to the management that we are investing our money, the money for the organization in the right areas. So one aspect is investment into training the people, the developers itself. And there should be a goal that kind of reflects in some sort of a downward trend in terms of the security issues that arise. And also from a attack surface perspective, investment going into the attack surface from a discovery and identification is very, very important, because you can only secure what you know of, right? So those would be two important things that I would possibly look for.
Yeah. Oh, those are good. Maria, so I have a slightly different question for you. Who should we share these metrics with? Like, are metrics sensitive? Should we keep them all a secret? What do you think?
First of all, that's not something that you need to keep like secret. It's not password, right? So like data, everywhere data in the world, when you share it, there can be benefits and drawbacks equally, right? So we need to, the secret, I think, for the AppSec, and not just the maturity model specifically, is who do we share them, what is being shared, of course, and how it's been presented. We need to, it's essential to consider that the audience, the knowledge they have, and maybe we should provide proper context, and maybe we should educate the audience before even we present those metrics to them, so they will be meaningful to them. So the very first organization that I would share somebody is definitely the developers team, right? So we need to improve the visibility, to encourage the ownership, to facilitate the collaboration between the security and the development teams, which can result in better security outcomes. But also keep in mind that developers, they're developers, right? They're not security professionals as much as we want to make them such. And so there are definitely cons, like it's easy to overwhelm the developers. It can cause distraction. You know, I've seen a lot finger pointing, blaming culture rather than collaboration. So we need to be careful to dose those properly. Same kind of a similar opinion I have about when we say, let's share with maybe network team, cloud security teams. So all of those teams, they definitely will improve the overall security posture by sharing proper information, to facilitate the prioritization, working together, to enhance this collaboration. Of course, Aruneesh mentioned managing upwards and sharing upwards, right? This is also very important, properly dosing. Especially beneficial is to work with the business team, because the business usually is oblivious about security. And then to enhancing their understanding, to demonstrate the value of the AppSec program to the business, to enhance the transparency, the trust between what we do and them and the businesses at home. So that, I think this is very positive as well.
Oh, excellent. Thank you both for being a part of the journey to AppSec maturity with the Purple Book community. Both of you were so great. And I liked how you both had very different points that kind of intersected in so many spots. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Tanya.
My pleasure.